The Chicago Bears have finally found their offensive coordinator. Hi, everyone. I am Andy here with Chicago Bears React, bringing you all of the Chicago Bears news you are looking for, both during the season and now in the off season. Before we talk about the new offensive coordinator, I'd ask you to take a moment, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, make sure you're tuned in, because even with this hire, we still have a lot that still needs to be discussed moving forward. We're talking, what are we going to do in the draft? What are we going to do with Justin Fields? Who are going to be the assistant coaches brought in underneath the offensive coordinator? Who's going to be the defensive coordinator? Free agency. There's so much still to be done in this season. You're not going to want to miss a thing. So, if you haven't noticed already, the news broke this morning that Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, will be signed as the Bears offensive coordinator. You want to make sure that you check out the video linked below where we discussed Shane Waldron originally as a candidate. He was the first name reported as a candidate for the offensive coordinator position. So that's very interesting. And there's a lot of things that I think we could talk about here. But the biggest one is in getting Shane Waldron, you are getting a play calling you're getting a coordinator with play calling experience who didn't flame out. Something that is incredibly rare. Most of the time, if somebody is available to be an offensive coordinator, it means a few things. One, they failed as a head coach. Two, they failed somewhere else as an offensive coordinator. Or three, they have zero experience calling plays. And so it's a little tricky. And so the fact that Shane was available, which for those who don't remember, the reason he's available is because Pete Carroll resigned as head coach of the Seahawks. And so that entire organization right now is in flux. And so if we kind of take a look at Shane Waldron's resume, you can see he has been more or less in the NFL since 2016, working his way up, and he has just 3 years, these last 3 years, of experience as an offensive coordinator. And so this is somebody who is an ascending coach. He's still, I think, just 44 years old. So this is somebody who is going to be, I think, a sought-after name moving forward, even for head coaching positions. Anybody coming from that Shanahan McVay tree is going to ultimately get people excited about their head coaching prospects. And so, and this is somebody who's not only learned underneath Sean McVay, this is somebody who learned underneath Pete Carroll, who I think everybody would agree is a great head coach. This is somebody who worked under Bill Belichick, arguably the greatest coach of all time. This is somebody who has worked around incredible minds, and so I think Bears fans should be excited. And ultimately, one of the biggest things that I think needs to be discussed here is the fact that they brought in the candidate who resurrected Geno Smith's career. Now, I don't want to give him all the credit for that. There's a couple other people that I think share some of the credit. I think Pete Carroll deserves some credit. Too often we look at a coach like Carroll, who's not an offensive-minded coach, and assume like anything that happens with the offense is just because of the coordinator and assistant coaches. But at the end of the day, like it still requires a head coach that understands how to put his players in a position to succeed, right? You also have to consider that Dave Canales, the current offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers, was there the year that Geno Smith really ascended into even the MVP conversation. And Geno dipped a little bit this year. And so with Canales leaving, and we've seen what Canales has done with Baker Mayfield down in Tampa Bay. I think it stands to reason that some of what happened with Geno is because of Canales. But that doesn't mean it's not because of Shane Waldron. I think two things can be true, and I think this is a situation where you have to just look at it and say we have to both be excited about this and also recognize that who comes in along with Waldron to coach the quarterbacks is going to be a significant figure. One person who that could be is someone we discussed on this channel as recently as yesterday, which is Greg Olson, who is the current quarterbacks coach of the Seattle Seahawks. He was also interviewed to be OC. And don't be surprised if some of the candidates that were interviewed for offensive coordinator end up coming to Chicago anyway to work on Waldron's staff. Sometimes you see a name who coming in for a bigger position interview, and you kind of scratch your head like that person doesn't seem qualified. But the Bears were likely being proactive, trying to get interviews done with other coaches that they want to snatch up when it's time to hire the quarterback coach, hire running back coach. They already have Chris Morgan retained as the offensive line coach and possibly and likely the run game coordinator. But there's still positions. You need a wide receiver coach. You need all these different coaches, people who have a huge influence on the team. So, but going back to this conversation about Geno Smith, I do think it has to be noted that this seems to indicate the Bears may yet keep Fields. And so this likely comes down to Waldron himself. What did Waldron say in that interview? Does he believe he can do with Fields what he did with Geno Smith? Or was there a component to Geno Smith that made that hard to replicate? I don't know. Waldron might have gone in that interview and said, look, I can take Fields from here to here, but I can take Caleb Williams to here, and this doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I do think this is the offensive coordinator of all of the options out there that maximizes every possible avenue the Bears have right now at quarterback. And so this is something to be excited about. I'm very excited. He was in my top two candidates, him and Clint Kubiak. And at the end of the day, I think Bears fans should feel good that we have a much more stable offensive coordinator candidate here. Not that Luke Getsy was unstable as a person, but this is somebody who has the real experience that we've been looking for. Somebody who has his offense ranks. If we take a look, the last couple of years with Geno Smith, they've ranked 11th and 14th in passing offense. That's not setting the world on fire, but we also have to recognize that team, it has DK Metcalf, it has Tyler Lockett, but at the end of the day, Geno Smith is not as talented as Fields. Geno Smith is not as talented as Caleb Williams. And a potential pairing of DJ Moore with another stud receiver is probably going to be better. And so, I think the Bears are built a lot stronger than that Seahawks offense. They just haven't had the right play caller and the right offensive coordinator. So let me know what you think. Are you excited about this? Do you think he's going to bring Greg Olson with him? Make sure to mention in the comments what you're thinking. And as always, bear down.